space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission: to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilization, to boldly go where no man has gone before.
Greetings, salutations, and welcome to Retrek. I'm Captain Jim. With me, of course, are Admiral Elliot.
Hi there.
And Dr. Squee.
Dragon!
And we're back talking about the Dominion War with the next 2 episodes in a change to the scheduled programming because I forgot an episode was a Dominion episode again. We're doing Treachery, Fath, and the Great River, but we're also doing Once More Unto the Breach.
You really scared me that when you said this change to the program thing that you meant since you told me.
No, when I announced it last week, I forgot that Once More Unto the Breach was kind of a Dominion, so I thought of it as a Klingon one.
Can I just say here, I want to be really generous to Ian here and assume that we can make changes to the schedule and he will have no issue in talking about a Star Trek episode, whichever we put.
Oh, that's true. But I was just saying before we came on air, the funny thing is, sometimes when I rewatch them, I'm really surprised at the dip. Like, not to jump ahead too much, but it's like, there was something about the kind of Dahar Master second episode that just, I was like, why don't I remember this more fondly? I think it's just like, it just takes too long to get there. But when it does, boy, is it amazing.
Yeah, we'll get there. I think I enjoyed it. It's not one that I think of really fondly when I think about episodes, but I did enjoy it.
It's one of those that you don't. It's not on your immediate go back to watch list. But when you watch it, it's always, this is a great episode.
I'm telling you, if it got going a bit quicker, I think it would be on everyone's watch list. It's just because it takes I noticed it was about 17 minutes before that's the next one.
I feel like with Core, it was the law of diminishing returns a little bit because Blood Oath was so good when they brought the 3 of them back. And yeah, anyway, we'll get there. Let's start with Treachery, Fath, and the Great River, though, which has a cool title. I really like the title of that episode. It
sort of sounds a bit old school when the original series had these really long
titles.
Yeah. I like that.
And it is about treachery and faith and the great material continuum.
Yeah.
Yep. It does exactly what it says on the tin.
It does. It's weird that you get a title that represents the A plot and the B plot, though.
That's true. I didn't think of it that way.
But fair play to them. So it starts off with, and this seems to be something we keep coming back to, is Kira and Odo, but this time it's Kira getting a massage, which, to be fair, if your boyfriend was a changeling, you would be like, right.
Let's just say if this was a more adult show, then that
yes,
is Odo would be stretching further, like we all know.
Yes, I'm sure. I'm sure they have a very healthy sex life.
I'm sure more than healthy. If you can change in anything, come on now, you can enjoy that particular superpower. Is all I'm saying.
And we know that the laws of mass and things don't apply to Odo, and that he can turn into any shape or size. So
like and plus you'd lose like a foot in height if you needed to. But yeah, regardless of all the sexy talk which I took us down there, I will say though, I was so glad to see a scene. I was like, I'm sure I remember them being able to act as a couple together. And this one was perfect because they don't do any of the cheesy lines. Like we were saying.
Yeah, it's fine.
They did it last episode, didn't they, though? They did through the cheesy lining, but then they showed them as a great couple. And it's like, it's just starting to feel like they've almost, we don't need to throw it in your face anymore. We're just going to make them a couple. And we're going to do what we do really well of showing relationships in Star Trek. And DS9 is absolutely brilliant at showing relationships when it's on point.
Yeah, I think when Deep Space Nine becomes comfortable with a couple, and it can be a couple of mates, it can be a couple romantically, once they get used to the characters, they get
And
much
the
better
dynamic
together.
and
the
and what
dynamic.
their
You're right,
dynamic
yeah, because
is.
it's a new dynamic, yeah. So yeah, I
Mm.
think just to begin with, they were like, well, it's a couple thing. We better throw in some cheesy one-liners, which just didn't suit them. And it's like, yeah, just this was so much better because even in the last episode when they were being more natural, because they'd done the cheesy lines at the beginning, it took me out of it.
Yeah,
It was nice.
Mhm.
it's almost like when they first get a new couple, they haven't given the writers like the Bible of how these people act together. And it's sort of like, yeah, we need the audience to know that these are a couple. We're still building up that these are a couple to the audience. We're still putting,
Yeah.
like, first time watching as well. Remember, a lot of these things, they only just got to be a couple at the end of season 6.
hmm
We've had a 6 month off between season 6 and 7.
Yeah.
And we on episodic TV, people weren't watching it the way that we watch TV now.
No, that's it. That's why you've got to remind everybody every episode that they're
Yeah.
a couple, rather than just accept that we'll take
Yeah.
it for granted.
And
Yeah.
you're also looking at they also used to with a lot of the episodic TV. Like DS9 was different because it had the story acts, but you still have the standalone stories. And the studio still wanted people could jump into an episode,
Mhm.
could jump in and out, and so you had to have these things that were pushed in your face until it had been done enough that right. These have been a couple now for a year. People jumping in could just see them as a couple. People who jump in and out, in and out, in and out should have jumped in and out enough times now to know they're a couple.
I mean,
Let's just play them, and here's your Bible, and this is how these are as a couple.
but I would just done what they did in Cheers, for instance. Like, when Dan left, they introduced Becky in one episode. After that, she was just there. Like, the dynamic was there, and they just followed it. Anyone who jumps in, it's like, oh, she's in there now. That's the thing. It's like I think they didn't need to do as much as they felt.
Yeah, I think with sitcoms, they do that a lot, and they do it with soap operas as well. And it's as if you've known them for a long time. But with dramas, especially episodic dramas, they did tend to do this. Where
I mean, of course, that
changes
time
in
though,
dynamics
of that time though, because it changed over the years. Because like in the original series, just Chekhov was there one day and it was just there.
Yeah,
And
this
they
is
didn't feel
great.
like hey, new crew member Chekhov. Like, hey, is it Chekhov? I believe you joined the crew recently. You know, they didn't feel the need to do that then. I think it just credit your audience a little bit. Like,
I think
in that era. So.
I think it's TV, how different TVs have changed through the years, and
of course
how it's looked at how you do things.
Yeah, but the point is
one of my funny ones, and this is way off track, is, and I'm not a soap opera fan, but when I was at college, I got into Santa Barbara because it happened to be on my. It happened to be on my 3 days on my 3 mornings where I was stuck at home. It was, and we didn't have all your channels. You remember, we only had 4 channels to watch, and this was on. And there was a point where there's this story, and one of the main characters changed 4 times in 4 episodes. The actor, and it was just like carry on, and there's nothing said about it. They obviously didn't want to get rid of the character, but they were sacking actors.
bit like Zial.
Yeah.
Very
the most
similar.
recast character.
But she wasn't as in your face. Like,
No.
You've got the main character, and like next episode it's someone else playing him. Then someone else. The next episode, then someone else. The next episode, and you weren't meant to notice these things.
So Odo's storyline is that his informant has been in touch, and that's setting us up for he feels he owes it to him. It's worth the risk to find out.
We have seen Odo meet this informant before.
We have
in the shadows, and it's the same cave.
Yeah. But it turns out, of course, that it's not the informant he was going to meet, who we find out has died off screen, but it is in fact Wayoon. But as
6.
That's what I was going to say. As we discover later in the episode, it's not the Wayoon we've seen before, and it's not the latest Wayoon. It's the one in the middle.
Yeah. Because didn't we see a Wayne die before now? So we knew that they were.
Yeah,
fine.
the first time
Yeah.
we saw Wayun, he got
He got
killed.
killed.
Wayuns already. Yeah,
And
We
then
have
they-
seen, yeah.
And then they brought him back, and we've been dealing with a main Wayun throughout this since he came back into the story. But we discovered now that was Wayun 5, who died under suspicious circumstances.
Who could believe there was a transporter accident?
It does seem very
And
unusual.
Demar got called away at the last second to not
It just-
transport with him.
I also, can we just give a shout out to the Wayuns talking about the other Wayuns, like, oh, a noble predecessor. Like, you're talking, basically, you're bigging up yourself, but it's another person
Yeah.
who can do it. It's just brilliant. Something very endearing about that.
I do
You're
like sort of.
This disgraced Wayun, that other noble Wayun, that credit to our clone race.
I do like the way it's played with Damar. Because at this point, the last time we saw him, he was starting to get a bit hooked on the booze and not really caring. But he's nowhere near the Damar that we're going to get to, who wants to liberate Cardassia. I think he just had Wayun killed because he was getting on his nerves at this point. Like, I don't think this is a political strike in any way.
I don't think it is, because he's like, Wayun 7's here and he's still working with him. I think you're right. He was just, this guy's pissing me off.
Yeah, can we get him killed? Come on, can somebody just do something with the transporter?
I swear there's even
I'm going to have a week off from him while his new clone is brought online.
There's even a minute, I swear, where you get a little, like, just the smallest of grins from Damar, like, when, you know, just, it's so, like, lightly played that you could play it off it wasn't, but I think there's just a slight grin he managed to do to the camera.
And the thing is, I imagine, to a degree, Damar's in a position where he can get away with this, because the founders don't really care that they have to make another clone of Wayun. They've probably got loads ready.
I don't think the founders, unless it was a major political issue why Wayun had been killed, will probably even be aware.
Yeah, so
it'll be a minor footnote of what they're bothered about. As far as they're concerned, there's Wayun and they clone them, so they don't have to be bothered when one of them get killed.
yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if every so often, like with this, might be why we're up to Wayun 5. Damar might have killed a few of them by this point because he's just getting sick of them.
I reckon there's a way which, like, there's just one founder who's basically sacrificed every report they read, so it just goes into, like, they just link up every now and again. Like,
probably, they have an admin founder.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he just comes and tells everyone else. Yeah,
right,
I like
there's
that.
my skinny. Right, I'll be back to my fucking Monta bitches. Like, just why do I get Monta duty for like infinity?
And Wayun tells us he's defected, and there's a great line where Odo says, "You're paranoid." He says, "Well, of course I'm paranoid. Everyone's trying to kill me."
That is a brilliant.
Yeah, I think that's really
and a perfect
good.
line from the guy who just like drinks poison just to see if it's poisonous.
Yeah. And meanwhile, then the B plot is it's kind of a rehash of when Jake and Nog used to get on these shenanigans, or the episode where they're trying to get they're trying to get the card for Cisco. It's very much like that.
And I love the twist on it, but the one thing I will say, the only thing which I get it, like, for the experience of the plot, I don't like, you know, usually I go, well, one line with a solve this. I think for the plot, you sort of had to stick to the way they did it. But it's the fact that when he goes like, oh, what do I know the first name of the guy for? I think O'Brien is the guy who would know all that. He is the guy who would understand the art of finesse. No, I'm just saying, hear me out. I think to get as far as he has, it's like Scott, you know, you have to know other engineers where you have to trade goods, when you have to do stuff, when you have to get stuff done in no time. I think those connections are vital.
Yeah, maybe.
And I think he would have known, like, I'm not saying that Jake, like Nog exchanging the desk and all that is something that he would do, but it's like, I think he would go, well, what do I care what his first name is? I think he would have known that sort of thing.
Yeah, maybe. You'd think.
Maybe.
But I'm prepared to let that go for this excellent plot.
I'll go.
What I like about this is that, like, it is a rehash of in the cards, but we don't play on them actually going and getting all the stuff in this one. We see it from the other side where he's got O'Brien's passcode.
Yeah.
be able to authorize stuff. And that's why I did it in the thumbnail. You just have O'Brien's he doesn't have a clue what's going on.
I'd even add, it's also the reason why it sets itself apart from the previous episodes of this type, because there's in the cards and there's another one where they're doing trading for land.
There's a really earlier
on.
Yeah.
But I'd say the reason why this sets itself apart is because it is also with adult Nog. He is so much more interesting in this period of his life. But it's sort of like, I find it really fun when he's being this version of Nog and he does something Ferengi. It's sort of like more layered somehow. It's
yeah,
not so
definitely.
one-dimensional as him just being another Ferengi trader.
And
I think this sort of shows why Cisco was right to bring him into the Federation. It brings something new. It brings something the Federation doesn't have. Nog is able to go out and go, here's a problem, and how would you normally solve it? You'd either fight about it or you diplomacy. Can we have it or pay for it? And he goes, no, that's not going to work. Right, how can I work around this?
Yeah, especially during wartime, a Ferengi's probably really useful. Like
as a quartermaster.
Yeah, Nog would have probably been the one who could have got you like the tobacco and the rations and stuff like that.
Nog would be for
I'd be the guy in the Tash from Dad's army.
Yeah.
Like, any military, it'd be great to have a Ferengi as the quartermaster because you get all your stuff you want. It's like what's his name in Catch 22, who goes out and gets everything.
Never seen it. Or read it.
No, I forget the name.
It's a brilliant book. I can't remember his name, but he's made the quartermaster, and suddenly he develops that he can get stuff from all sorts. And he's got the Germans working for him, and he's an American Air Force pilot in the Second World War, and he's got the Germans delivering stuff.
Now, I've just for the first time ever listened to the audio book of To Kill a Mockingbird. So if you've got a metaphor about that, I'd be there.
Right.
The one thing I will also add is I bet those still Cisco's going. It's like, yeah, that Nog, he's one of the good ones because he's still Ferengi racist. He's still Ferengi racist.
Yeah, they are a bit. Back to Cisco
especially, let's face it.
Yeah. Back to Weyoun then. So I like how immediately Odo says, well, you're going to have to prove that you're reliable. And straight away Weyoun just starts going, right, well, I'll tell you this, and I'll tell you this, and I'll tell you this. So when the Dominion defect, they really defect, which it's quite refreshing, really, to do a defector story like this, where it isn't like, oh, you'll have to make it worth my while. It's just like, right, I'll tell you.
And the wonderful thing was it still stuck within his belief system. So that even though he thinks differently to the other clones, he still thinks what he's doing is embetterment of the founders and of the Dominion.
Yeah.
He just disagrees with what that is. It's like, it's really interesting. And also the fact that he it just adds this kind of like he doesn't completely sell out, like the fact that he is still like invested in the Dominion, but he's just changed what he minds. It kind of adds more texture somehow to Weyoun this episode.
Yeah, he has this really interesting idea of, well, Odo, you're a founder, you can reshape the Dominion into something
it's
much
not like
better.
Because Odo goes, you realize with what you say, the Federation can completely defeat the Dominion. He goes, yes.
Yeah.
But you're a founder. You can reshape it. You are.
Yeah.
Do you think also it's really interesting as well that it also speaks to, like, if you are cloning and you're manipulating someone's mind and the way they act, do you just tweak the wrong thing? You just add this extra bit of confidence here. You add this extra bit of questioning here, because which would be really helpful in negotiations if they question things, but then they question something you don't want. It's really it opens it up, that debate about which is very still current to this day about genetically engineering. In fact, we have abilities to do more and more in that field. So I love the fact that it's only more relevant today than it was back in the 90s.
There's some really interesting Vorta stuff in this one. The bit where Damar is perfectly okay with blowing up the runabout, that's absolutely fine from his perspective. But then you get Weyoun 7 sort of trying to justify it. At first, Damar says, well, nobody has to know he's on it. And at first, Wayoon's kind of like, okay, maybe we can get away with that. But then he tries to justify it in his own head by saying, well, Odo said that he didn't think of himself as a founder. So technically, I'm not killing one of the founders. And it's really good acting that you can see him, this sort of torturous thing going on in his brain to justify it.
I'll also add to that the fact that the reason why they need to get rid of this Wayoon 6 is because he's defecting and everything else, but it's because he's questioning things. And I wonder if, like, maybe they didn't dial that back completely for Wayoon 7. Maybe they left that a bit more.
Yeah, maybe there's a little hint of it in Wayoon 7. Yeah, I've not thought of it that way. That's pretty cool.
When you were saying that.
And then we'll go back to Nog for a little bit then. So this is where he takes Sisko's desk, which is a great visual. Like, I love that.
Well, it's an explanation for it as well. It's like, it's just basically an autograph hunter.
Yeah, I really like that. It's like, well, the war means that he can't go to the desk, so I've sent this desk out to him.
Also, don't you love the fact that it's like, I do love when they find a justification where it doesn't seem forced to bring up, like, things we know about. So it's like, because he's down behind the desk of Captain Picard, Admiral Shelby, you know, just chucks in some names, which we know.
And it's, he usually just sneaks in when nobody's looking and sits in it.
And you can imagine someone, like, I'm not being funny, but we are geeks and we have had photos where we probably should at times. So we can appreciate it.
I suddenly had this image of like him just like Picard coming in his desk, the guy's just sitting there goes, "What are you doing there?" And I was just checking your chair. I was like, anyway, I'll be off, like, you know, really awkward moment.
But we can see this as being geeks. This, and it's playing to the audience because it's a Star Trek show. They're playing to Trekkies.
Yeah, like it reminds.
And we do things like this.
Reminds me of something I read in a wrestler's autobiography, whom I won't name because there's accusations flying around about them at the minute. But anyway,
did he used to wear flares?
I will not. It's not Ric Flair. Somebody else. Anyway,
from, unfortunately.
So what him and his mate used to do when they used to go to watch wrestling when they were kids is one of them would stand in the corridor outside the locker room, just posing and smiling. Then when the wrestlers walked out, the other one would be at the other side and they'd go, "Steve," and just shout the wrestler's name, and then he'd look at the camera and his mate's already behind him posing, and they'd take the picture. Nice. So just make it look like you're getting these you're getting these posed pictures, which pretty clever. I mean, they'd probably lamp you if you did that at a sci-fi convention. So don't try it.
I don't know. I probably wouldn't try it on with wrestlers. Probably sci-fi actors, I feel a little safer doing it with than wrestling. But
depends which one it is. But yeah,
I'm just picturing Picard there going like, Councillor Troy, could you come into my my ready room for a moment? I think he was taking a photo at my desk. Why would he do that? It was so weird.
It's just goes back. This isn't where I left it.
He said he was just looking at my goldfish, but why? It's weird.
And as this guy, to make it cooler, has he? Presumably, he's going to put a backdrop up when he takes it to make it look like he's on the station rather than in his house or whatever.
Like,
who knows?
Like the green screen background where it was like with John Hurt, and it's like the TARDIS from the Day of the Doctor. It's like he's done that. He's just dropped a green screen.
And then he explains the great material continuum and everything. There's a little throwaway line which I thought was quite interesting where he says something like, "Oh, ever since I had my first set of ears," and this implies that Ferengi ears are a bit like our teeth, like you're born with baby ears and you shed them at some point.
It's quite an interesting one.
Me too.
So, and like, you know how they go on about some of the Ferengi haven't got the ears, so they haven't got the big lobes, and I wonder if it's because they've still got the baby ears.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
If it's sort of like
because you imagine if they've got the big ears when they come out, that would That would be sore.
Yeah, if your adult ears don't grow in, I bet you're really ostracised in Ferengi
Yeah.
society.
Oh,
Yeah.
geez, yeah. Oh, what you want me to do almost on those things? Like, what am I going to use? My little finger? You know?
And can you imagine like the money that must be made on like Ferengi plastic surgeons for ears on the black market? Like, I want you to make it look like I've got the lobes.
Look,
and they go and
I'm sorry, Brent, but like you've just gone too far. Like you're struggling to keep your head up with those things. Like those plastic surgery's gone too far.
yeah, you've taken it way too far now.
But it's also I love it when he is explaining the great river continuum, like material continuum.
Great material continuum.
He
Material
does call
continuum.
it the Great
But-
River as well.
But I just love it because it's like again, it's about Nog having outgrown the kind of just greed of Ferengi, but he still believes like that. That's kind of a sweet belief in a way.
Yeah, it
Like,
is.
it's about,
I do like
when I give you that thing, you give me this, and we both benefit. It's not.
I do
it's
like
not
how
just
he
mercenary.
like how he explains it. He goes, the universe or the galaxy has millions of planets, and one will have too much of something,
Yeah.
and one won't have enough of it. And the great material continuum will make this right.
And may I throw into that as well? This kind of like, I'm sure this wasn't the intent, but it sort of speaks to some religions because there's certain things in religion which then culturally is twisted to meet people's beliefs and stuff. Not picking on any religion, just generally that can happen. Like people just twist religions to suit their own ends. And it's sort of like you feel like this is quite a kind of like a co-op kind of like picture of things. I've got too much of this, you've got too much of this. Let's trade. Let's help each other out. And the Ferengi, like with greed, like brought in over time and their culture is built around greed, has just twisted that to be it's like, oh, you've got too much of that, I'll fucking take it and I'll give you something which I don't want, which is useless, but you won't know that until I fucked off. And it's they've just twisted that over the years. It's kind of interesting to think that the Ferengi might have always been that.
I mean, effectively, the great material continuum is the reason that we invented money. Like, because it's most basic, it's absolutely correct. We do work on a barter system, but the problem is that I don't want a thing at the exact second that I want to offer a thing, whether that's work or whatever it is. So we invent this thing called money so that I can do my work, and then when I do want the thing, I can exchange. So the great material continuum for me is almost a metaphor for the function of cash in society. You know, that's the thing that takes the person who's got too much of one thing to the person who's got too little of another thing. It's no surprise that Ferengi philosophy is based around this.
I just love the idea that we could get like a Ferengi prequel show which shows the birth of greed. You know, it's like it's from a kind of like religious society which kind of trades to better everyone else, and like we've got this, you've got that. Let's trade it, like the great material continuum, and then it goes to like how can I twist that? And you just see it. You could
almost have like the beginning of 2001: A Space Odyssey, but instead of inventing tools, they invent cash, and that's when that's when Ferengi culture started to take a downturn. Right then, so back with Weyoun, then they start getting attacked. Weyoun helps Odo destroy the things. And this is where we find out that they are genetically programmed to worship them. And even this Weyoun that is able to question things doesn't question that. He says, well, of course, that's how you'd engineer it, because if you're a god, you want someone to worship them. And he doesn't question for a second that, wait a minute, does that, if they were gods, why would they need to force people to worship them? He doesn't question that. He's like, well, that's what gods do. Of course, they engineer people to. It's just fascinating that he's still indoctrinated in that level, even if he's questioning other things.
It does also explain how they were altered, though, so you can see that.
Yeah.
That he looks at that. Well, that is godlike. You took us from these small ape-like creatures and made us into this. So you can see why.
Now, I found that really interesting because Odo goes, oh, well, maybe that shows my people aren't all that bad. And it's like, does it? They took a primitive species. Yes, they made them more evolved, but into a race of slaves. They were probably
Yeah.
perfectly happy with what they were before, and
Yeah.
maybe you sped up their evolution, but you didn't evolve them into a free species. So
You evolve them into, so it's sort of like,
I don't agree with you there,
Yeah,
Odell. I don't think that does show the benevolence.
I'm with you on this.
It reminds me of, like, there was a post which someone made, like it was a vegan post which just popped up on my time, and someone put a comment going, it's like, well, if we didn't breed the cows for slaughter, then cows wouldn't exist. Like, first of all, cows did exist before us, but secondly, it's like, I don't think you're doing the cows the favor you think they are. Like, I'm not trying to convert anyone, by the way, just it was kind of one of the worst arguments ever. It's like, well, there wouldn't be so many cows being slaughtered if we didn't eat them. Well, that's kind of our argument as well. But anyway, okay, you do you. You know, just.
Yeah, I'm not convinced by Odo's argument.
Look, the Vorta have got so much better brains now. Yeah, to be used as puppets. You know, it's like it's
exactly.
Not you think you are.
Yeah, it's all them good Star Trek ideas of freedom, and you know. But yeah, I'm surprised that argument wins Odo over. Like, oh yeah, no, they did a good thing there. Anyway. So the founder, and this is a crucial turning point in the ongoing storyline.
And this is why I put this picture on the thumbnail as well.
Yeah, we find out, we get a 1-2 punch of seeing the founder being affected, and then Weyoun disclosing to Odo that the founders have got this disease. Odo don't think he's got it. Spoilers. We'll come on to that, but eventually. But yeah, so this is a big turning point in the overall story.
So it feels like the equivalent of, because, well, at this stage we know that Odo at one stage has had sort of a disease which forced him to go back to them, which involved the skin flaking. So it sort of looks a bit like, you know, he's linked with them. He's gone off to the chemist to get something for his ailment, and he's passed it on to everyone else.
Well, no, it was hit by that.
No, they did that to him.
Yeah, I know, but what I'm saying is, though, when he linked in, and it like at this stage, the only thing which I think I remember thinking at the time was, the only thing I could think back to was that, and it's like, well, maybe it passed it on to them. Like, even though they gave it to him, maybe unintentionally gave it to them, and then he was cured, but they weren't.
I think.
Well, as it turns out, he actually did give it to them at that point. But
yes, that's what I thought at the time.
This time round, from what I can remember, I didn't know what was going on here.
Yeah, it was the only thing I can link it to.
In fact, if I think first time round, I didn't take a lot of notice of it.
No, this episode felt quite throwaway at the time. And it was one of the few that I didn't have the video of back in the day, because I'd read a brief synopsis of the episode, and I didn't have enough money to buy every single one that came out, and I knew once it got to the last episodes I was going to after. So I was like, no, save your money this time. It sounds like I can possibly miss this one. It's actually
quite an important episode.
It is, yeah.
But I remember watching it, the first time watching this, you don't really realise how important it is with what's happening to the founder.
I certainly didn't think they'd all got it. I just thought it was like quite funny. It looks like she's got it.
Well, you see her, and she makes reference to the temperature of Cardassia, that it's too hot.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, well, yeah, it's a liquid. That makes sense that it's too hot.
Yeah.
So, like, obviously, when you watch it all, then you go, and you watch it the second time watching, you realise, but first time watching, it sort of like makes total sense that, she says that it's because of age, and you think, yeah, she's a liquid.
Yes, it would be quite susceptible.
It's affecting the liquid.
But back to the desk briefly. They do get a replacement desk, but it's just this comical.
And I also love that Bashir is like, Bashir does the classic thing of it's like, as a mate, he takes the piss out of him, goes like, yeah, well, I'm sure they won't notice then. And then as soon as Kira comes in, he goes, oh, well, he's going to paint it. And like, he's almost
he's
half backing him up,
supporting
not
it.
mocking him still. But it's also, it also feels like a little bit taking the piss at the same time. It's like, yeah, he's going to paint it, you know.
To me, this was proper mates. This is like,
yes.
Yeah.
As his mate, just them two, he's totally taking the piss. You cannot get away with this. But as soon as there's someone else there, I am 100% behind you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly
He'll
that.
paint it, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Like, it's white, it's the wrong shape. It's not. But anyway, by the end of the episode, the desk's back. Martok's blood wine, which is a very brief.
But yeah, I love the fact it's sent by his wife. Just add a little extra texture. And it's like it
comes hunting down O'Brien, obviously, because Noggy's doing all sorts with O'Brien's passcode. Like I do like the part where Nog to get it, he goes up to the chief because he knows that O'Brien knows that he's trying to get him this stabilized that he needs. And he goes, look, I need to make a couple of deals. It'd be easier if you give me your authorization code. Don't worry about it. And then everyone keeps coming at him. Why have you done this? What's this about? And
it's also, there was a nice little moment where O'Brien's talking about the Great Continuum River, and like he's I kind of like this because I think they do in a few episodes where an idea is introduced to O'Brien, he argues about it, but then it's like he almost takes it on. And it's like he's going, the Great Continuum River, apparently it's going to sort this out. You know, it's like it's almost like he's been brainwashed into convinced that it exists.
Maybe it's a bit of desperation at that point. It's like I've just got to put my faith in the river, otherwise.
I like to think of O'Brien as being. This might sound wrong, and it's not meant to be wrong, but almost a simple man. He's an ordinary bloke.
Yeah,
he's not really intelligent on things, so you can put bits of media at him and he's susceptible, but he's a bloody genius at what he does. He's very, very good at what he does, but he's a bit of a simple bloke, and I don't mean simple as in.
Well, if I might, Elliot, I think what you're getting at is the fact that, as you say, he's incredibly intelligent as an engineer, but he's kind of like, I think his curiosity is what makes him. Whereas ignorant to certain things, as in literally ignorant, not woefully ignorant, he always wants to learn. And it's like, he's always curious. Like hearing about the Great Continuum, it kind of fits his character that is like, he's curious about it and he learns it. And because he absorbs facts. Like, you know, when he's talking to Picard, you always feel like he's always curious and he's always kind of gathering up these nuggets of information and these nuggets of more kind of like, lofty pursuit, like, you know, academic pursuit, because that's never been him, but he's got an open mind. He's curious about things.
He's not necessarily academic, but he's brilliant at what he does.
Yeah. And again, his curiosity was what elevates him beyond like, oh, I know this one thing, I don't care about anything else. He wants to.
Yeah. So the main plot then wraps up with Wayun 6 activates his suicide capsule effectively to stop the bombardment, and you get this thing with Odo where he asks for Odo's blessing, and Odo is kind of reluctant at first, but then you can see him just sort of thinking, sod it, you know, it'll make him happy kind of thing, and he accepts it.
I just think it's nice of Odo at the last minute.
It is.
That he gives him his blessing.
Yeah, it definitely is.
I think it's all about
it's a big thing that Odo felt comfortable enough to do it.
Well, I don't think he even feels comfortable. I think he is so about the truth, and like he always wants to say things as they are, that when there's a moment like this, when the right thing clearly to do is to comfort this guy, and if him giving him this blessing in that moment does that, that's clearly the right thing to do. But it's not Odo's first instinct. But he has learned so much from being around humans and other species and Bajorans and everything, that he's learned that that's a necessary thing, and he learned the importance of it. But it still doesn't come first into his first instinct is still towards the truth. It's beautiful, really nicely done.
That's what I mean by him being comfortable with it. The fact that he can do it, even though he knows it doesn't feel genuine to him, he can recognize that it's what the other person needs, kind of thing. So I enjoy that moment. And then like the ending is like the conversation with him and Kira, and Odo's sort of finishing line where he says, whatever happens now, I know I'm going to lose. And I thought that was quite poignant, and it shows the way. You would have thought this would have dawned on Odo before. What was he thinking before? Like, oh, well, if the Federation lose, at least I know my people haven't died. And if the Federation win, then at least I know Bejor. So, I wonder how he was sort of thinking about it before he reached this conclusion.
I think he's always thought in his heart of hearts that somehow he could, because he still loves his people from whence he came, as well as his adopted family. And I think he thought somewhere in his head, against all odds, that he could just convince the Great Link of what he's seen. Like, they've been embittered by their experience with the solids. I haven't had that experience. I can teach them. I think he just still believes somewhere.
Well,
and this was a moment where he finally went, no, I can't. I'm not going to be able to square the circle.
Like, the founders are embittered by something that happened thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
And they've just continued to subjugate solids ever since.
Oh, they hold a grudge.
But the founders, they're not interested in anything the solids are actually doing. Their whole thing is that they're subjugated.
Yeah.
They've put the Jem'Hadar to keep them under control, the Vorta to control diplomacy between different ones. But the founders don't give a shit. All they want is to be left alone.
Yeah, just telling you.
They found the way to be left alone is to subjugate the entire...
Yeah, if you control everyone, they'll leave you alone.
Yeah.
But I think he's the only person who's been on the inside of both. Like, he's been in the Great Link.
Yeah.
He's seen the beauty and the awe of what that can be. And so he gets why that's so important. He gets why they want to protect it. He gets why they're mistrustful, because he's seen it from their own minds.
Yeah.
His own mind in a weird way, because once you're in the Link, you're part of it. And then he's seen, the Federation being great and the Bejor being great and these people being so caring and loving. Man, it's like that is such a powerful motivation to, beyond the facts that you've seen, thinking you can bring them together, and just this is the moment where he breaks. He just that illusion breaks.
That's almost like that could be a bit of a spoiler for the last episode.
Well, we'll see.
I'm just saying that's what happens here.
We'll move on to once more onto the breach then. We start with Bashir and O'Brien talking about the Alamo, which is going to be a recurring motif until the very end of the show now.
Now, I love what Worf says to them here.
Yes, I do.
Because they're arguing about if he would or wouldn't, if he was a hero, and Worf just goes, it doesn't matter. If you believe he was a hero, he was. If you don't believe in the legend of Davy Crockett, what are you even doing here?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe that'll come into play later in the episode. Who knows? And then we get Kor back. And there's a bit though where
there's a nice throw over here when Kor comes back to have a drink with Worf. That Worf pulls out the 2709 or whatever.
Oh, right,
2109. And that's what Martok got back from
very good.
In the previous episode. It was the same vintage.
Very
Martok
good.
has obviously been really happy about this and been very generous with.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would also throw out the one thing, and this is kind of like a bit of my peeve with this episode with the B plot, is the Ezri of it all, because he's sitting down and she's just basically reciting. It's like, oh yeah, isn't that thing? And isn't like she seems uncertain of her memories, which I get plays into the thing of her host and everything. And he at the end goes, oh, it is Dax, but it isn't. And it's like, she doesn't really seem very Dax. Like, I think it would have been cooler if she'd fallen into a memory gun. It's like, oh, no, remember we did with that. Oh, sorry, of course that was Curzon, or of course that was Jadzia. Would have, because throughout this she doesn't feel very Dax at all, I've got to say.
No, I actually think this plays in well with when Kira's talking to her, and she says that everyone who knew Jadzia or that, they talk to me. And then they ask something and I say, yeah, I remember that. And then that tweaks them that they go, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, you are, Dax. I can see it.
Oh,
And it isn't that they can see it in her. It's just that she has that memory and they're talking about the memory and they're playing their own minds. And and that's and you're seeing what is really happening, that she isn't Jadzia, but people are getting that in their own heads who are talking to her. And she says that to Kira, this is what people are getting. And I'm not Jadzia. And she's saying I'm not Jadzia.
But can I also throw in then? Because, like, okay, that explains that way. But Core doesn't want to ask her to come with them. And she doesn't want to kind of like walk towards that. And that seems a bit, because like previously with Dax,
there is
with Dax, they pushed her away because they were trying to go on a suicide mission. That was a bit different.
There is a moment though where she talks about how she kind of wanted to go.
Talks about it,
Quack,
yeah,
sort of mistook. Yeah, that's a bit of a silly subplot, though it does have a sweet payoff where Quack thinks, oh, she's talking about getting back together with Worf. Again, spoilers. You might have to wait and see how that pans out. But something else about Dax right at the start when Core first meets Worf. He asks about what happened, and Worf says, she died a warrior. Like, Worf, did you not have to go on a massive big mission?
But then she died a warrior.
Because she didn't die as a warrior.
He has been on a massive mission, so she did die as a warrior.
Well, she didn't die as a warrior. She died like...
Worf did this, so she died as a warrior, and so now Worf can tell any other Klingon, yes, she died as a warrior.
And if you remember, Willow then howled at the moon to make sure Dottie got in. So they're all in Stovercore. They're all fine.
Yeah.
I know she went.
Worf is right to say she died as a warrior because he went. We had an entire episode where Worf made sure that she died as a warrior.
2 episodes.
What's that, Willow? She says kapla. So the matter's ended. I'm sorry.
And then we find out Core doesn't have a command and Martok doesn't like Core. And at this point, I realized this was an incredibly long teaser.
Yes.
Like there was loads went on before we got to the credits in this episode.
That bit thrown into, like, you could have had Core straight away, like Worf puts him on the ship. Then when he goes onto the ship, like, then you get Martok reacting, like, and then he explains to Worf why on the ship. You could have gone straight into the action a lot quicker here. I think doing this all up front without the mission happening, you slow everything down so much.
This is all pre-credits, and it's a good...
Yeah.
I know it doesn't sound a lot, but it's a good 5 minutes of the episode.
It's 15 minutes before the ship goes. Like,
I'm sure Discovery will go, hold my pint. You want to see?
Oh no!
In
modern TV, absolutely. I mean, I've just rewatched Stranger Things, and some of them season 4 episodes. It's nearly 20 minutes before you get.
I was saying Discovery did 25 minutes, didn't it?
Probably, yeah. Modern TV, it's very different.
We have a fellow YouTube podcaster.
Oh, Trek time.
Hey,
hello, Trek time.
Hey.
See ya.
Guys,
hello.
see you again. I think there's just so much of this which happens before the mission launches, which you could have rolled into the mission and made it so much more dynamic. We want to get into Core being out there and maybe have him have a few more moments of glory before he like starts shows confusion, do it a bit more subtle. Whereas this way, you've got to, as soon as he's on there, you've got to start putting in pretty quickly. I think it just
there's a lot of back and forth and legwork going on. You get Martok's planning this cavalry raid, and then Worf wants to talk to Martok, but he's not having any of it. But then eventually he tells him the story of why he doesn't like Core, and Worf says, well, I've made him an officer anyway. And like you said, we could have jumped a lot of this. It could have started on the ship. Martok goes, what the hell's he doing here? And Worf says, oh, well, I've made him a warrior because of this. Hang on. And then you get the, well, how was I to know our family don't have a blood feud with him? And yeah, we could have been well on the way before and dealt with this before
really,
we get off the station.
I think that's the sin which this episode does, which excludes it from my usual, like Elliot was saying, like gotta check out this episode, because when it gets into it, it's magic. Like really, the pathos which you get from this episode is akin to Blood Oath. But they really were taking too much in there. And to be honest with you, I think my beef, now I've talked it through with you guys, I think you've kind of like made it clear in my mind. It's not really with the fact that all these points with Dex. I think it's just because it's not Jadzia, and it would have been so much a better episode if it was and she was on the ship. To be frank, I think it's going back to that problem with this whole season, is that it's not Ezra's bad. She's just not Jadzia.
I mean, with Jadzia in there, I think we maybe would have got a really cool sort of dynamic, because I could have imagined Worf sort of kowtowing to Martok and saying, no, we can't have Kor on the ship because of the dishonor that he did to Martok. And Dax going, come on, Worf, this is the Dahar master. You need to grow a spine and stand up to Martok on this one.
I was going to go the other way. I thought when you said that, I thought you were going to say that, no worries. Glad you like the vid. Cheers again for the vid and award show, Trek Time.
Yep, Trek Time. Our pleasure, absolutely. That was the video they're talking about there. I mean, go check it out on Trek Time socials.
Trek Time. They are great fun to watch.
But what we did, we presented an award for the best Trek director of the last year. And if you want to know who won it, go check out Trek Time on all the socials.
I did put my pitch forward, but it wasn't me.
Yeah.
Well, we're not going to tell you who won it. You need to go check out Trek Time wherever you get your good podcasts, and you'll find the answer.
Like we always say, if you just listen to one amazing Star Trek YouTube show, then you'll be missing out on treat with the boys from Trek Time. Listen to them as well; they're great. Anyway, back to this episode. Yeah, I thought you were going to go the opposite way, because when you were saying that, I was thinking, oh yeah, you're right, because it would have been cool if Worf was trying to make sure the core, the Dahar master, is respected and that he goes forward. Whereas Jadzia is going, it's like, he's a liberty out there. He is a danger. You need to remove him from the bridge.
Yeah, we could have had that as well. Yeah.
And then when he comes back on the bridge, like maybe even Worf's going, it's like, oh, I don't think you're ready. And Jadzia going, it's like, no, this is the one you've been waiting for, actually. And she talks him around.
I think Jadzia would have been more supportive of Kor because of the whole blood oath and everything. But who knows? The battle then, when they attack this planet, where did the budget come from for this in just a random episode? Barely a quarter of the way into the season, we're seeing a planetary assault. We never see that in Star Trek. This is incredible.
There was huge budget on season 7.
Well, I know there was, but
you've had before this, which we haven't covered. You've had the Ezri Dax episode where she sat in a room with a rifle. We've had the episode where they played baseball, so they're just on a baseball court.
Fair enough, yeah.
Field.
There's baseball field. I'm
sorry. Field or done?
I'm sorry. I'm English and I grew up playing rounders.
Sorry.
And I know they're not the same sport, honestly, but we play it with a wooden bat. Balls, 4 corners. We run round.
Let me just throw it. I grew up watching Cheers. That's the only reason why I know the lingo so well.
I just saw an American audience on that.
It's the Ted Danson role. I grew up watching Cheers, and Sam was a baseball player, so I can't help it. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say. The only thing is, it's like the effects are really wonderful for the time, but it's one of those ones where it just feels like I'm watching a video game. Like there's just something, the uncanny valley. We've got better.
Yeah, a little bit, but for ambition, you can't fault this. I will fault it for something else. What I will fault it for is that they spend all the effects money in the middle of the episode, and then we don't get to see Kor go out in a blaze of glory. We just get it reported.
I think that works really well.
Yeah, there is. Yes, there is a power to not seeing it.
I think dramatically it actually works really well. that we don't see the battle. I would love to see the core battle. So one of those CGI guys who loves doing CGI things, can we see Core's final battle?
Core's final stand should definitely be a fan film.
Like, I do love how they've done all the attack, and it's Core who fucks it all up, because the whole thing with Martok is we're doing aim, hit, run, next target. We're not going back to finish off. We're doing damage as we pass, and that's it. And Core fucks it up because he goes, Martok gets injured. Worf isn't on the bridge for reasons during the main attack.
He's gone for some guck. Look, he was petty.
No, but you know what I mean?
No, I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying, of course, he wouldn't be off going for guck in the middle of a battle.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to speak a bit of the kind of like journey of Core throughout this. First of all, wonderful actor. He actually, sorry, I'm going to forget his actual name. Does anyone
John Colicos.
John Colicos. He was Mr. Freeze in the animated series of Batman, and they actually introduced in that the whole storyline of his wife having this rare illness that was never featured before. He delivers a line, and it was like, "If my heart still beat, it would break." Like it's, I'm probably misquoting, but it's just beautiful. And it's all on the table here in his acting. It's just like the moment where he's just getting so bloodlust in the battle, and then he gets confused. And I also kind of really love the scene where they're in the canteen, or the mess or whatever. And you've got the kind of like, they're sort of taunting him, and you could almost hear them going, ooh, because it's like, ooh, who was it who said this? Ooh, I think it might have been our first officer. Ooh.
Yeah, I think they're a bit overly harsh there.
Oh, God, yeah. And I think some of the younger actors in there are a bit more cheesy. Just quickly, Trek time. Got to run to our stream. Let me know if you guys are coming to Blackpool Destination Star Trek. We are planning to be there.
Cheers, Alex. We are planning to be there.
We will be there one way or the other.
One way or the other. Yeah. Hopefully it's an attraction and we have a show planned if we are.
Well, I don't know about you, Elliot, but always the attraction right here. That's what I'm saying. Anyway.
Carry on. I was going to make a dig about the relative attractiveness of people from Blackpool, but I shall restrain.
Woo! Yeah, so you've got that wonderful thing. But like, I sort of like the fact that Klingons, when you get down to it, that you'd think there would be a massive punch up, like would solve this. But like, first of all, it's taunting. And then, I mean, God, I want to call him Garon every time, Martok. He really goes for the joke, you know, like everyone else is just talking lightly, sort of like taking the piss, and you feel like they would have a fight and then solve it and then everyone would be fine. That's how they do it. But he's going for blood. And it's then when he's leaving, as opposed to like, you know, again, you sort of expect Core to like slap him around the face or something. But instead he delivers this wonderful line about like, enjoy the wine of youth. You'll find it has a taste if it ages too badly, and it's just it's lovely.
Core,
everything they put in Klingon before.
Core is a victim of his own success.
Yeah, he is.
He's an absolutely amazing Klingon warrior. That's why he's a Daha master, and he's lived too long because he's defeated all his enemies.
Well, I go even further than that. It also speaks to like people with dementia. I've like had family members be lost to dementia, and it's like it's that thing of like you've lived, you've survived, you've kept going, and your fucking mind lets you down. Like that's you're still capable if your mind would just keep to something. You know,
I'm disappointed with Martok here. To be honest, he's better than this. This is a very dishonorable way to treat someone, and I think Martok, this is not one of Martok's finer moments. And I know it's set up so that at the end of the episode he can, you know, realize that Core really, you know, deserves all his honor and everything, but it's just it's too petty for a man like Martok. Is this?
I'll throw you out. That like through that happening in his youth, it shaped something in him which I don't think Martok's very proud of. I don't think Martok wants to be petty, jealous bitch. Basically, you know, he is an honorable warrior who has this kind of blind spot which he's never been able to get past. And I think when Core does that at the end, not only does Core reset his own legacy. He kind of cements his own legacy for all time. He gives something back to Martok, because Martok is the person he's always really been at heart. He's got part of this block of hating this guy, and he's realized it's the fucking reason why he is who he is. Everything he said about like the unfairness of the system is true, but it doesn't mean that he isn't a great man and he doesn't deserve his respect.
Yeah.
It gives something back to both men, and that's why I think it's such a powerful episode when it fucking gets going.
Yeah, and it is a good ending. It's one of those where you can see the dramatic beats coming a mile away. It's we've got this suicide mission. Worf's gonna do it. No, he's not.
No.
Don't even waste screen time pretending he's gonna. We know exactly what's going to happen here. But the way it's executed is actually really nice, because it's well done. Because you have Kor saying, when you see Jadzia, and you think, is that his kind of dementia thing again, and he's misremembered, and then it's like, no, he said it on purpose, because then he says, I'm going to see her in Stovacor or whatever. So,
I was going to say it's another line of poetry in there. Like, I love that. I love that.
Yeah, it's a very clever moment.
Yeah, it's like, and I will tell her that she still has the greatest husband in the universe, who still longs for and like loves no other other than her. It's just so beautiful. And again, this is what it should have been from the start.
And we finish with that, going back to this idea of a legend, like, Martok says something like, how did he manage to hold off all the things? Worf says, does it matter? And it goes back to that idea of, Kor's become this legend like Davy Crockett now.
Kor is the Daha master.
Yeah. And it's the awe in there. It's the awe in the eyes of Martok, which didn't mean to be insensitive, Martok. Do not start blood feud. I misspoke. I'm sorry. Don't kill me while I sleep. Anyway, no, he'd wake me up first because he's honorable. Anyway, that's not the point. It's like the look in his eye where he says, like, it's like, but how did he defeat all those? I think he loves having that sense of wonder. He loves not knowing.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
The Klingons love the idea of an impossible fact. They don't know the solution. Even though Worf's the one who says it doesn't matter. I think he already knows that.
But that's where, like, there'll be an entire Klingon opera.
Easily.
There'll be several.
No, there will be several, but there'll be like how Kor was the old aging, infirm Klingon warrior past his prime. The young warrior was going to sacrifice himself. But he had more to give. So
I hope it's
Kalis entered him in that moment, not like that.
Yeah.
I hope it's the same guy who wrote the other one. Like, they'll turn up and go, can you write us an opera about Kor's last standing? And he'll go like, it's not got another Cardassian in a cupboard, has it, this one?
Sorry, wrong language. That was Brune and G, not Klingon.
That's exactly what I was thinking when you said that, Jim. I was thinking it's like, it's like I've just finished writing. It's like, and Garak was really brave, really, in the end. And it's like, for fuck's sake. All right, now we're on to Kor.
Kor. And one last thing about the episode I want to pull out. Not part of the main plot, but Quark does have that really nice scene with Ezri where he speaks to her and says, like, you shouldn't be wasting your life on revisiting your past and all that. And it is a lovely, touching moment between them.
But he's like trying to think, I'm going to get in here because she's not going
to... that's the thing of it at the end.
He's been a dirty old man, which there's nothing wrong with being a dirty old man. As I get older, I can appreciate these things.
We just have to be respectful with it.
But I think it's a nice moment between the two of them.
Yeah, I think that was a lovely moment. But there's just something about like there's something about her acting in this episode as well, which I just didn't gel with. Like when she goes like, do you want to swap and be a counselor? It's like, I don't know. That's it.
Do you know why that scene didn't work? Because Nana Visitor had to pretend to laugh. And as I always harp on about, she cannot do it. She's a wonderful actress, but she cannot do that.
But I feel like
Oh,
but I feel like it's almost like we've again, I'll use him as an example only because he said it himself. Alexander Stiggs, he said that he was learning as he went. Like some of the earlier performances, he does realize he kind of improved as he went, became a great actor because he was a young actor at the time. I feel like we're seeing a bit of this with Nicole de Boer. I think in some of these scenes she's not there yet, and it's like, yeah, so if she gets someone who's unable to laugh, I think that kind of throws her a bit more easily than a more seasoned actor, for instance.
Maybe.
And she just,
yeah, you're probably right.
I didn't find her believable in this episode.
It didn't jump out at me, to be honest, but I think it's benefited us with this rewatch, skipping the 8 different Dax episodes that we've had over,
Yes.
and we've talked about why they did it that way and everything, but it got a bit overkill, and I can see why in certain parts of the fandom she's not that well liked a character, because it did feel it's a lot of story real estate to invest on essentially a new character in your final season.
Because I've got her hanging off my shoulders.
You have?
Nice. And no one's saying that we're not envious of that. But but she's great. Like in the episode which you mentioned earlier, where she's in her quarters and she's got the gun and she goes through walls and everything. She's really great in that. It's a really great performance by her. There are some really wonderful moments. I just think sometimes, again, she's suffering from the fact they're having to force this character in pretty much, but also the fact that she is a younger, less experienced actor going up against people who've worked together as a team for so long as well.
Yeah, they've got into their characters for 6 years, and she's dropped into. So and it's not she's dropped in, but she has to play someone who's known them, kind of, for 6 years. It's a big ask of any actor. It
also throws in the thing which I said last week, the whole idea that it's like oh god, I've completely forgotten where I was going with that. Sorry, it just went. It was something to do with Dax and the new Dax. Something I said last week, but yeah, no, it's gone.
Okay, well, we'll wrap it up there if our brains are switching off. We will be back next week with the Siege of AR-255. I think I may have got the numbers wrong.
Sorry, very quickly, where they talk about rejoining, and they've talked about that previously, and it's very clear that they're not meant to associate with a previous life, which they totally fudge for this. And it's sort of like, it feels like the reason why she doesn't go on the mission is sort of like, it's insinuated to me that she's trying to separate herself from her previous host. She's happy to be on a station with loads of people who are intimate in her life.
Yeah.
You're allowed friends, but not lovers, I think, is the...
But you're also not allowed to harm masters. It's all very fudgy for me.
The whole thing is fudged.
Dax isn't the most devout follower of Trill rules anyway, though. But anyway, we'll be back next week with the Siege of Numbers and Covenant. So we're going to cover those episodes.
Which is episodes 8 and 9. So we have no problem that we may have missed one in between.
Just the next 2. And that's going to be the case for a lot of season 7. I think we're only skipping half a dozen, if that, between here and the end now. In the meantime, you can get in touch with us at RetrekPod. We're retrekpod@gmail.com. We're all over the different social media, including Retrek Model Studios, where Elliot has...
I have just hit 500 subscribers.
There we are.
And I am going to say thank you, Jodie, for being my 500th subscriber. Woo! But why the hell weren't you subscribed previously?
This is how you lose the subscribers, Elliot. Don't do it. Just say yay.
I may be interviewing you this weekend as part of the 500 subscriber.
Oh, the 500 subscriber celebration. Also, this weekend, this is a preview. We may, I don't know if we'll be able to stream it on the Retrek stream or where it'll go out to, but we may be reviving Indoor League with Fred Truman. and you may get to see Retrek plays bar billiards this weekend. So
And we do know Cheese Skittles is happening, but we're not sure if it's actually happening this weekend.
yeah, we're not sure if we're allowed to play.
We may have to do our own.
We
Cheese
can
Skittle game.
we can certainly do bar billiards. So hold on for that. If worst comes to worst, you'll get shove halfpenny.
Can I also throw in? We're all going to be in the same location. We're going to see the Stranger Things play. Yeah, we got tickets. So just rub it in, anyone who's not. But yeah, we're all going to be in the same location. We should at least do some like small video for the YouTube.
We will.
Just a quick little thing if nothing else.
Indoor league. Don't worry. I'll sit there.
Jodie has been warned now. She may be interviewed.
Right. So yes, Dr. Squee, what have we got coming up?
Oh, check out King's Toy Box on YouTube. I know you haven't got anything new, but check out all the other videos. They're amazing. Dr. Squee Show, drsquee.com or youtube.com/Dr. Squee. Again, we're sort of on hiatus at the moment. I'm aiming to relaunch in February with some new interviews. I'm just trying to line them up at the moment. However, if you go to youtube.com/Dr. Squee or drsquee.com, it all leads to the same place, or Facebook/ the Dr. Squee Show. There's loads of interviews there. Please check out. Why not? Ronald B. Moore. I interviewed him as part of Squeefest. I believe it's up as a separate video. If not, find the Squeefest videos and you can watch that. And Alexander Stig, loads of Star Trek legends there. And I'll mention some more next week while we're on hiatus.
And thank you for trekking with us this time. And because we're reviving Indoor League, I'll see there.
See there.
See the dragon, LLAP. I.
Fascinating.
I was trying to say something northern, but it came out I up.
I'll